Hello and welcome back to episode 5 of Catching Flies Wrestling Podcast. I am Stephen Burton. Joining me as always, he is an author, an actor, a lumberjack this week, Pete McCottis. What's up, Petey?
What's up, Steven? Yes, this week I have slipped on the lumberjack robes. I'm just doing a little work around the house. Man, it's tougher work than I thought. Did I finish it all in one go? No. But we're gonna get it done. We're gonna get it done. Hello, everybody. As Steven said, we are on episode 5. We are very, very thankful that you're here with us. We've got a fun little show in store for you today. We're going to start off as we always do in our first show after a pay-per-view or a premium live event, and that is to take a look back at Survivor Series WarGames. That was the actual official name of the program. They usually want to put the year on it. They didn't even put the year on it this time. It's just Survivor Series WarGames. It's the first time Survivor Series has come to WWE's main roster. They've been running it on NXT for a few years now. Before we get into the nitty gritty, Steve, why don't you let us know your overall thoughts on the show?
WarGames was fun. There was a lot of great matches and a couple stinkers, but overall, I'd give it a solid B+.
Yeah, it was a good show. Right now, it seems like under the Triple H regime, WWE is never going to put on a bad premium live event. There's always going to be something to sink your teeth into, and this show was no exception. And I think as many people would have anticipated, the show did kick off with one of the WarGames matches. They seem to be doing this whenever they have Hell in a Cell pay-per-views too. They'll start the show with a Hell in a Cell match, and if there's more than one, they might put one in the middle of the show, and then of course they'll end it with one. But they start us off red hot. The women's WarGame match. It was, as advertised, Team Belair, which was Bianca, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Michin, Mia Yim. I'm glad that we got clarification on her name. That's Michin is a nickname. Fine. I didn't want to call her that instead of Mia Yim. She's introduced as Michin, Mia Yim, and Becky Lynch, of course. Going up against the Team Bailey. That was Damage Control, which is Bailey, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Nikki Cross, and Rhea Ripley. I almost said Rhea Cross and Nikki Ripley. I almost got that mixed up. And that was the team that had the advantage going in. So what were your thoughts about these 10 ladies going at it?
I mean, overall, it was a pretty solid match. It didn't really do much for me, honestly. I mean, overall, I thought the women worked hard. It was a fun match. The only issue I had with it was felt like they were using a lot of weapons, a lot of kendo sticks, a lot of table spots, and if the finish of the match was going to be Becky Lynch jumping off the top of the cage, through two girls through a table, kind of wish they would have limited some of the other spots just to make the finish mean more. We don't need to see Nikki Cross do a crossbody off the top cage, for instance, with Becky doing the finish off the top cage. So I just felt there was too many spots done in the match, and but overall, the women worked hard. I'll give them credit for that, but I just didn't feel like this feud needed to be in a WarGames match.
Yeah, fair enough. I do want to state for the record that we did our prediction show on Saturday, and one of us only got one match right for the whole show, and that one was me. I literally predicted every match wrong except for the obvious match, which we'll get to in a second. I did think that Bailey's team was going to win this match. They did not. They gave Becky the spot coming back, and that's fair. She's Becky. She is, even in her absence, potentially the top, maybe not the top performer. It's hard to take that away from Bianca Belair at the moment, but the top name for sure. I mean, she remains the only woman to win the proper main event at WrestleMania. When I say proper, I'm just talking about the last match of the show, day one main event. to me is not a main event. The last match of the show is the main event, but we'll get to that when we get to WrestleMania. uh, it was an interesting match. It looked like there were some nerves in there. Even Corey Graves pointed that out on commentary. I wasn't sure if he was using that as an excuse to cover for what looked like a missed spot or two. I don't usually
Right.
stress those. Um, Not hitting every spot perfectly is not a huge problem to me, especially when it doesn't make the move go awry to such a point where someone gets injured. There was that
Right.
spot where I'm not sure what Io Shirai was trying to do at the top of the
She's
turnbuckle. She
not
kind of
either.
lost her balance a little bit. She's phenomenal. She can do all that stuff. So she missed a spot or two. That's no big deal. So again, especially when it's not like it was a botch where somebody got hurt or somebody landed the wrong way or anything like that. Her timing looked like it was slightly off. Io Shirai at 80% is still better than most at 100. I keep calling her Io Shirai, don't I? Io Sky is better at that than most. And I don't want to ding a match too hard for that, but I think it would be disingenuous to not point it out because it was there. Um,
Absolutely.
Storyline wise, did this deserve War Games? Was it right place, right time, and time for War Games? That's arguable. It didn't have the storyline heft that the men's match did, and we'll get to that obviously. But I didn't find myself watching the match wondering why I was watching it. It never reached that point. Um, the win for that team is fine. The loss for the team is fine. It doesn't seem like too much is going to come out of all that. I think it's just going to be life goes on for everybody involved, not so
Yeah.
much an elevation for everyone else, for everyone that's involved. It was fine. Again, the match spectacle was great. If you were just watching for the work rate, minus again the missed spot or two, you probably got what you wanted. Where we go from here with these five or these 10, up in the air, not so much in the oh my goodness, what's going to happen next vein, and more like the okay, so now what vein. So not phenomenal, not bad by any means. It was a match. It was an opening match. They went at it. Becky got the big win. Crowd got the big pop out of that, and we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, overall, just basically, I just think that Dakota Kai and Io Sky, as even though they were pretty good singles competitors, putting them together and making this group, I I just think it's bringing Bailey down, and it means nothing. You know, I think Bailey, now that she's back, everybody was waiting on her to get back. I want to see her be a single star. I want to see her go for the belts. I don't want to see her be the leader of a crappy group that never wins.
Well, they
That's
are
just my
tag team
opinion.
champions. They're tag team champions. I think it's kind of like
The
Mandy
women's
Rose in
tag team,
NXT. She
yeah,
has her backup. It's there. Um, Difference, of course, Mandy Rose has been holding the title for 13, 14 months. Um, Bailey's got a lot to push through to win that title, and it'll be time for her. She will get it. It's tough to take the title off Bianca right now. I can see Bianca holding it for the whole year, all the way through Mania potentially. But that's a story for another time. The next match up on the card was a one-on-one encounter between the OC and the Judgment Day. Representing the OC was AJ Styles. Representing the Judgment Day was Finn Balor. I predicted Finn Balor to win this match. So we know who won. AJ took the dub. It wasn't the best prediction day for me, but that's okay. I don't mind being wrong about predictions. It just means that I missed something or the story took a direction I didn't see coming or anything like that. But AJ Styles versus Finn Balor. Any chance they could have a bad match? Could that even happen?
not at all.
I don't think so either.
Not at all. This was the best match on the card. This to me, or to me, it was at least. I enjoyed it the most. These guys worked their ass off and put on a show. Uh, I liked AJ getting the win. I think the OC needed a win, and AJ may have needed a win. He's been working pretty hard these last couple weeks, getting his ass kicked, and he was due a win. I don't think it hurts anybody, especially Finn Balor to lose. But overall, I thought these guys put on the best show of the card.
Yeah, work rate wise. Try that 3 times fast, everybody.
All
It was it was definitely a clinic. It was probably in that regard solely, yes, the match of the night. Yeah, I think AJ and Finn Balor could, I don't know, get up from a nap and have a phenomenal match, pun intended, right there on the spot. Um, Besides the fact that they're both excellent in ring performers, it seems like they have a natural chemistry as well. AJ got the win, and I read somewhere, and I couldn't believe this, and I haven't done the research to see if it's true, but it's his first premium live event singles victory in like 3 years, which is insane.
wow.
Yeah, I'm sure he's had a few tag team matches mixed up in there or
Well,
whatnot.
you with
But
almost and stuff.
yeah,
For
he lost. Yeah,
sure.
yeah, he obviously he won the tag titles at WrestleMania with Omos. He was involved in that tag team for a little while when they had their
That's
one-on-one match. Almost won, um, but that's kind of crazy. It just shows you how good
that's
AJ is. He can go,
incredible.
yeah, that he can go 3 years and really
Wow.
not lose his steam. AJ Styles can be put in a program at the top of the card tomorrow, and no one would bat an eyelash at it.
Not at all.
Yeah, but yeah, the match was great, and the match that followed it is going to be the one that is going to receive, I think, the most criticism for the evening, and then that's the women's SmackDown Championship match. Ronda Rousey defended her title against Shotzi, and the issue with this match is not outcome. It's not. Everybody knew Ronda was going to win. Everybody. If Shotzi came out of the pay per view with the title, I think it would have been subject to ridicule. And that's not a diss on Shotzi. It's
No.
just, first of all, it's Ronda Rousey. And
The
we're
only way
gonna
she was going
just
to win is a catastrophic injury or Ronda's
right,
leaving the company. It was one of
right,
those two would have been the only way she was going to win.
right. And otherwise, it just would have been a title change for the sake of a title change, and that's doesn't seem to be the
Right.
way Triple H operates. The problem with the match, from my eyes, and you tell me if you agree, and then you can give me your thoughts as well. It seemed like they didn't have any chemistry in the ring. They tried, and I think they tried not only from a booking standpoint, but from a working standpoint to get a couple of things over. It just didn't seem to work. Um, what did you think?
The major problem with this match per se was it looked like Shotzi was trying to do a lot of crazy spots, and basically Ronda was like, "F this." Like, I'm not doing a DDT to the apron. I'm just
Yeah,
going to hold on to the rope. like, uh, I don't know. Like you said, whether it's chemistry, whether it's just nerves, last second split decision. I'm not going to do this move after I had already kind of agreed to do this move. Um, I don't really know what it was, but there was a few times during this match where I'm just like, what is going on here?
yeah,
Are, like are we trying to put on a bad show? You know, that's just what it looked like to me. It looked like Rhonda changed her mind like literally last second to not take a move or two or three. And the outcome of that made Shotzi look bad. It made Ronda look bad. It just made the whole match bad. And I don't know. Shayna Baszler wasn't needed for this, obviously. I mean, you're billing Ronda as the baddest woman on the planet, and Shayna Baszler is like a close second, so to speak. And then, if they're the baddest woman on the planet, why does she need freaking backup? So I don't know. I had a lot of problems with this match, but yeah, that's what it looked like to me was this last, very, very last second. Ronda just decided, I'm not taking this move.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty spot on. What I will say is that had this match taken place 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and it went down the exact same way, that was probably going to be the end of Shotzi on WWE TV. I think Triple H
Yeah.
won't do that, which is the correct thing to do. I mean,
I don't
Shotzi
know
has
if it's
earned
her
her.
fault.
Yeah,
I don't
it
like
might not
I
even be
don't
her fault,
I
but
don't really I don't blame her for some of those spots because like what can you do if your partner or your opponent, but your working partner is holding on to the ring rope while you're trying to give her a DDT to the apron, you know? I mean, if they don't want to cooperate, they don't have to, but you're gonna get spots that look like this.
yeah, and
I'm
even if
sorry to
that's
cut you off there.
no, that's fine. Even if that's the case, I still think Vince would have been like, all right, this is no good. You're
Oh
down.
yeah. Yeah. Vince
Triple H is going to give her another chance. I'm sure, maybe multiple chances. She has earned her way onto the roster. She's not a charity case. She's perfectly fine. She has tons of room for improvement. She has potential to be top of the card one day, not today, but it's
sure.
there. And yeah, Triple H is going to give her a chance to work it back up. I would imagine this being her first true highlight match that maybe she's feeling down about herself. I'm sure her confidence isn't what it was entering the match
Sure.
as it was exiting the match. And they'll give her every opportunity, I think, to rearrange her outlook on it and give her a shot to go back up, a shot Z to go back up, if you will. But
But
Ronda retains.
do you
And
blame her for this though?
no, I don't
Or do
blame
you
any of
think
it. I'm
this
not.
is on Ronda? Because it seems like you're thinking that the WWE is gonna punish or you know, if there's any kind of punishment, it's gonna go to her. And I blame Ronda for a lot of these spots because I mean everybody knows before the show you're going over the match. So if you agree to do something in the match and then as that moment comes and move comes, you all of a sudden like grab the rope and refuse to go down, you know, you can't blame the person giving the move. They didn't know you were going to grab the rope,
No,
you
absolutely
know?
not.
So, I
And
mean, I think if anybody's going to get a talking to, you know, it should be Ronda, like, you know, by Triple H. He should go in there and be like, you know, what the hell was that? Like, are you agreeing to take moves and then not take them? Like, you're supposed to be the champion. You're supposed to be the baddest woman on the planet. You're not afraid of nobody. So, you know, what the hell was that? That's just,
yeah, and again, to answer your question, assessing blame is not something I'm trying to do on any angle
no,
here. I'm just talking about
sure.
what it looks like today and what it may have looked like a couple years ago. And we, of course, can't substantiate whether or not Ronda truly changed her mind in the middle of the match or went into business for herself or anything like that. It's totally possible.
Sure.
And I don't necessarily get into the personally speaking, I don't get into the nitty gritty of all that backstage talk and rumors and
Sure.
Meltzer sheets and all that. I mean, when news comes across, we want to know about it, but something like that doesn't never interested me. I like to see what I can with my own eyes. I think everyone's going to be fine. Obviously, Ronda won't get punished. If everything you said is true, there's going to be no punishment. They're not going to take the title off her just for no reason. I don't think Shotzi's going to slide down the card too far, if at all, maybe. I mean, she may come out and SmackDown this week for all we know and challenge for a rematch and get one. It's just, I think 2 years ago or 5 years ago, whenever Vince was in charge, that he would have said, Ronda's my star. I didn't like this match. Therefore, Shotzi is punished. And I don't think
Right.
Triple H will engage in punishment booking. I never understood punishment booking.
No, it's
And I don't think Triple
no one
H will ever do
benefits.
that. Yeah, no one benefits.
No one benefits in it. But I think if anybody needs to go back to NXT or to drop down to get a little more experience, honestly, send Io and Dakota back. Let Bailey do her thing. I think Shotzi can be a prime time Monday Night Raw or SmackDown women's championship. You know, she's got the look, she's got the intro. The fans were behind her for a long time before they tried that out of nowhere turn with her. But I just I hope she doesn't get punished per se because I really don't blame her for some of those spots looking so bad because there's nothing she could do, you know.
All right.
So,
No, I
but
agree.
we've
But
spent too much time on Shotzi. Let's move on.
yeah, let's move on to the last match on the show that wasn't War Games was the Triple Threat United States Championship match. You had Seth freaking Rollins. I do believe that is his legal middle name. He
Yeah, I've
is
seen his
defending.
license once.
He is defending the title against two former champions, Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory. I said in my prediction video that Bobby Lashley would do something to give Seth Rollins the win. Bobby Lashley did something to give Austin Theory the win. And it went down exactly the way I thought, just in reverse order. Guys, I'm trying to find silver linings here for my predictions on this show. Uh, but Austin Theory got the win. The Austin Theory Reclamation Project took about a month, and it's already complete. What do you think about the match in general?
Real, real quick, just because I forgot to ask you all ago, did I do okay on the predictions
Yeah, you
or?
did better than I did. I mean, we didn't pick everything the
Well, it
same thing.
sounds like it. If you just got one right, or did I just get two
you
right or
did
something?
you did much
I was
better than
curious
I did. Much better than I did.
because
I just
I thought I picked Theory to win, but I couldn't
you
quite
did.
remember all the picks.
You
So I was
did.
like, I'm not,
You
I
did.
think I got a
You picked
couple
AJ to
right.
win. Yeah, you did. You did good. You did good.
uh,
But Austin
Overall,
Theory is our new
though,
U.S. champion.
yes, yes. And congrats to him. I thought they might give us a little bit of a swerve, but mainly I think this entire match was built to free up Seth Rollins to go to bigger and better things. In my opinion, I uh, I think this was definitely you know Seth Rollins' time to shine. I couldn't believe that finish in that match. That was unbelievable to have a guy in a suplex and then to take a spear and safely land and not kill yourself or the guy you're suplexing.
All
Like
right.
he is the best wrestler in the WWE, hands down. That being Seth Rollins. And Bobby Lashley, he looked like an animal, a monster in this match too. You got to give him props. I mean, a lot of people don't realize because he looks like a Greek god. He's like 47, 48. I mean, he's up there in age
He's about a couple years
and
older than Lesnar. Yeah.
he's still just putting on bangers like so these guys work their ass off. I think this helped saved Theory, save face for Theory, I should say, a little, just because he did really look like an idiot. Like you gave your briefcase up to a guy who's offering an open challenge. uh, but this kind of save face for him. It makes Rollins free to go on to bigger and better things, hopefully, and gives an immediate start for Theory's reign, that being Bobby Lashley, because he can come out and say, well, the only reason you won the belt is because I finished off Seth.
Uh,
So it gives them a good starting point. It gives Seth an avenue. It just, to me, the way that they booked this has accomplished its goal because it freed up all three guys essentially to start new.
so when Theory lost his cash in, that was the third time that the cash in was unsuccessful due to losing the match. We had a couple where like it was a DQ or whatever, but the first one was Damian Sandow. He lost a match in his cash in. The second one was Baron Corbin. Those two guys, at least to this day, never got back to the level of the person they cashed in on. Let me explain. Damian Sandow went for the world title, never sniffed the world title again. Finn Balor went for the pardon me, Finn Balor. Baron Corbin
Baron Corbin.
went for the WWE title, and to date has not gotten back to that level yet. He might still. Of course, it'd be years later. Take a look at Austin Theory. He cashes in for the U.S. title, loses, and a month later gets the title. I think it's a great story. I think transitioning Austin Theory's character the way they have makes it more likely that he will achieve that main event level success. And we saw on Raw, and he had the face to face, quite literally a face to face. I mean, they were up there nose to nose with each other with Seth Rollins, and he looked like he belonged. And I'm of the opinion that you are as well, that Seth is, if not the top guy in the company, then very, very close to it. And Theory looked like he belonged in there. And 2 months ago, it would have felt contrived. They'd be like, oh, they're just trying to push him. They're just trying to. But nah, it seems like he's earned his way there. And with Roman Reigns being a double champion and being on SmackDown more than being on Raw, one could argue that Theory being the U.S. champion does make him nominally the face of Monday Night Raw at the moment. So that's all great. The match itself was great as well. It kind of reminded me of another triple threat match that Seth Rollins had a few years back. I want to say the 2015 Royal Rumble against John Cena and Brock Lesnar. You had a similar situation here. Bobby Lashley kind of as a stand-in for uh, for Lesnar, and Theory as a stand-in for Cena. Obviously, it's not perfectly like for like in either direction, but the idea of the way they had the match, the way it went down. I did like the ending as well. I think a lot of people might point out that Lashley's spear looked less devastating than it normally does. That's fine. If that's what it takes to make sure no one falls on their head, I'm okay with that. Um, a spear is a spear. You can get enough of it, it'll count. I think they can sell it as that.
Bobby
And
Lashley could hit you with his pinky and knock
yeah,
you
he
out.
could probably knock you over
So
too. This
I'm
is
just
true.
saying,
Yeah,
like,
that's true
if
too.
he,
That's true too. When it's Lashley coming at you, absolutely.
it doesn't
So,
take much.
but I like your point that everyone comes out better, and the potential for everyone to go their separate ways now is there as well. I think they're going to have a little bit of a coda to the end of the feud, but yeah, in time, everyone's going to go their separate ways. Not sure when Cody Rhodes is supposed to come back. I'm sure when he does, it's going to be Seth Rollins all the way with that. So to release Rollins from that title makes sense too.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain it's going to be Mania, and them two will be headlining or closing the show most likely.
Interesting. All right. All right. Now we are at
Sorry.
the final match of Survivor Series WarGames. What else can you say about all this? The Brawling Brutes, KO, Drew McIntyre came in with the advantage, facing off against the Bloodline. And we have the WWE Undisputed Universal. I can't do the Paul Heyman thing, but we're talking
Right.
about Roman Reigns, of course. Solo Sikoa, the tag team champions, the Usos, and Sami Zayn, who is basically WWE's MVP right now. What you think of the match?
Well, before we get into the match, could I just back up just a hair?
Oh, sure.
I love the backstage between Reigns and
Oh,
Sammy,
yes, that does need to be
and
mentioned.
because it kind of sets this match up. But basically, Reigns, going back to SmackDown, Jay had talked to Roman and said, he busted Sammy talking to Kevin Owens, and that we can't trust him, and so Roman set Sami Zayn down face to face and asked him, you know, were you talking to Kevin? And despite lying on SmackDown, he was honest with his tribal chief.
Uh-huh.
Said, yeah. Well, he was talking and I was just listening, you know. So he covered the Sami Zayn's so good.
He
My
is.
God, he
He's so
covered it
good.
up good. But he's like, I was just listening, and so Roman asked him, what's he saying? And you guys are gonna turn on me, and I'll never be an Uso, and I'll never really be part of the bloodline, and just the whole the dichotomy of the whole situation, and the almost tears in Sami Zayn's
Uh-huh.
eyes, like I won't let you down. I'm with you guys. You're my family. And then when Roman just stands up and extends his arms, like just offering that hug, man, it was good.
It's
I thought it
riveting
set up the
television. It
match.
really
It
is.
really it is. I may not have done a good job describing that, but the if you go back and watch it, it's very good acting. It helped really set up the match. In the match, Sami Zayn is saving Jimmy and Jay from taking, devastating moves. He's saving Roman Reigns from getting put through a table or speared and Sami Zayn's working his ass off, even to his own detriment sometimes, saving somebody and taking the hit himself, really proving that he, you know, is a part of the bloodline. And then at the end of the match, uh, setting up Kevin Owens and going face to face and then giving him the low blow and the haluva kick and then letting Roman Reigns get the win. It was so good. And Sami Zayn just did an unbelievable job of proving himself, uh, telling that story, and then winning over the bloodline, which was, we finally have for the first time a fully functional, happy bloodline.
Right.
And I thought the bloodline had to win. I uh, I thought the story was incredible. This to me, I'm not huge on these matches, gimmick matches per se. Um, I like more of a championship match to close a pay-per-view, but this story was way better than any championship match could have been, and just capped off a great pay-per-view overall.
And yes, absolutely. The pinfall in the match did go to Jey Uso, which was just another layer, the way Sami said, "Here, I give you
Right.
this win over my
That's what I
best
meant.
friend." Yeah, no, no, I know what you
Yeah,
meant.
I got my names
I mean, no, he
crossed
gave
there,
Roman
but
the win. The fall itself went to Jay,
right,
and to see them kind of embrace, I even let out an "ah" when
right,
Jey
right,
Uso and Sami Zayn embrace, which is just going to make it that much more heartbreaking when Sami eventually gets excommunicated from the group. There's
right,
so, but what Sami Zayn is doing right now is getting investment from the viewer, not just in "oh my goodness, what's going to happen next," but "oh my god, is Sami going to be okay?"
right.
Um,
And at an all-time level, in my opinion,
yeah,
like maybe the most sympathetic heel in 20 years. I mean,
I
my
mean,
God.
yeah. I mean, they're on the island of relevancy, and it seems like Sammy's carved out a little enclave called Babyface Island. There, I mean, he is a
Right,
babyface within the bloodline, who is still, acting within the context of being a heel, but is a babyface. And I got to say this about Sammy. And a few months back, what we're looking at here, late March, early April, this guy is losing a gimmick match at WrestleMania to a celebrity. Okay. And again, it's Johnny Knoxville, and we know Johnny can take bumps all day. And it wound up actually was very much an entertaining match. To
yeah,
see
it
where
was.
Sammy is now, or just he was just kind of trying to be the lackey or just trying to get in with Roman just to
Right.
prove his conspiracy theories. This is what happens when you let a story be told.
He
If
took
you're telling a story, if you're writing a book, if you're writing a TV show, if you're watching a TV show, you might probably want to have an idea of where a story is going to go, but it can change. And, again, we've mentioned that I've written some stuff. I'm by no means top line author. I'm not Vince Gilligan. I'm not Stephen King. I'm not any of these guys. But I can speak for them a little bit when I can say that when these guys write their stories, they don't know for certain what direction the characters are going to take them in. Let me give one example. I know everybody loves my examples from the 80s and 90s. I'm always pulling them out from right there. But there was a show that debuted a few years back, I want to say 1989, called Family Matters. And many of you may remember that show. The one thing, if you know anything about Family Matters, the one thing you know about that show is Steve Urkel, right? Steve Urkel was the absolute focal point of that show. But go back and watch the first episode, watch the second episode, watch the first few episodes, and who do you not see? You don't see Steve
Steve.
Urkel anywhere there.
No,
That show did not start off in that way. It
not
was
at
just going
all.
to be about a upper middle class family. Well, I'm not sure upper middle class, but cop for
Like
a
middle
father,
middle class.
middle
Yeah, middle
class,
class family.
father who's a cop, uh, some other struggles they go through in the city of Chicago. That's what that show was supposed to be.
Right.
For one episode, they bring in this nerdy character to bother their teenage daughter, and the next thing you know, he becomes the
Star.
star of the show.
Star.
If
Yeah.
they had said, you know what, this guy was never meant to be over. Let's use wrestling terminology now. He was never supposed to be the one to get over. The show's about the Winslow family, and that's it.
Right.
So, and then the show would have moved on, and we wouldn't have known any different. It would have just been some clamor. It's like, oh, remember that Urkel character, that one episode? He was great. Um, they were able to pivot. That show was on the air for 9 years. I mean, to put that in perspective,
It wouldn't
Friends
have
went
been.
10 years, Cheers went 11, The Big Bang Theory went
Right.
12. I mean, it's right there behind these like mega hits. And it did 9 years. So why am I talking about Family Matters and why am I talking about Steve Urkel? Because Sami Zayn changed the way this story was going to go. I'm sure Sammy was going to bother the bloodline for a couple months. They were going to beat the crap out of him. He was going to recruit someone. They were going to get the crap beat out of him, and that was going to be it. But
Right.
darn it, Sammy came in and changed it. He changed the dynamic. They all have great chemistry together. It seems like, and I don't know how you couldn't, but it seems like everyone in there just truly likes Sammy as a person.
Right.
Like behind the scenes. I can't speak for what's going on back there, but it seems like they genuinely like the dude, and that's spilling over. And when, not if, when the bloodline eventually throws Sammy out the door, he is going to be the most white hot babyface maybe since Daniel Bryan when he was going through the whole Yes movement. And
I agree with
we
that.
were talking about the strong possibility of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens being the ones to take tag team titles off of the Usos. I'm willing to put Sami Zayn on a short list of people who could take the title off Roman Reigns. That would be something
Yeah.
amazing. The crowd would explode for it, I think, especially if it's done correctly. And I have no reason to think they won't do it correctly. It's great. It's great as happening with Sammy. He was supposed to be leaving his contract about a year ago. Now we're talking about him as potentially the guy in the company. Whoever ends this reign for Reigns, it's going to have almost Brock Lesnar ending the streak level credibility. It
No,
won't
I agree
quite
with
be the
that.
same because that's a 2 decade thing, but and imagine if that's Sami Zayn. I haven't even talked about this match yet. I
Right.
really haven't. That's kind of on purpose. I mean, I just all this about Sammy needed to be said. Um, I'm going to be running out of breath soon. I'm not there yet. I'm going to hand it over to Steven for a little bit, but I've gone on for a while here. And the reason for that is because of what Sami Zayn is doing to these eyeballs in my eye sockets right now. He is
It's on fire.
everything. He is everything right now. I've been saying that the Acclaimed is the best thing in wrestling right now. They got competition with Sammy. I think they're probably 1A, 1B right now, whatever order you want to put them in. Um, the match was great. That beat to the boundary spot was amazing. I loved it. And in general, I love the what Jerry Lawler used to call the Wile E. Coyote cam when they have the camera from the top,
Right.
uh,
Looking down.
and especially when they were standing off and looked like they were about to do that West Side Story thing and go at it. That was a great shot. Um, the ending was interesting. Took me out by surprise a little bit that Kevin Owens took the fall, but it made sense. Um,
Yeah, that took me by surprise too. I
nine
was kind of
guys in there worked their tail off and did amazing.
absolutely.
And I'm over here talking about one dude, Sami Zayn, because he deserves it. Because he
Well, he
deserves
stole the
it.
show. He
He
stole the
did.
show
He
without
is
question.
the WWE MVP right now. I am running out of breath. I'm gonna hand this over to Steven. I'm gonna go hyperventilate for a minute. Steven, any closing thoughts on this match and the Survivor Series in general?
Overall, this was the Sami Zayn show, like you said, without question. I mean, guy's on top of his game right now. If you've not to skip ahead a little bit, if you watch Monday Night Raw, Kevin Owens said it best. I've known for 20 years Sami Zayn is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and he is finally proven it. Um, you know, from taking he took chicken shit and turned it into chicken salad, and this is the best story in all of wrestling, including AW. And like you said, when he when they do finally turn, which I hope isn't for another 6 months or so, because I am enjoying the heck out of it. He will definitely be. I think it's going to be him or Rollins ultimately that takes the belt off Roman. So overall, that's gonna close it for Survivor Series, I believe. One of the big four is done, and what we got? We got Rumble coming up next, isn't that right?
Yeah, the Rumble is the next big show. I think they could probably do another show in between. Um, WWE is heading in the right direction. And it's not just Triple H. It's the fact that he is specific in his role because Vince controlled everything.
Right.
Triple H is controlling creative, and you got Nick Khan and Stephanie doing the business stuff in the background. It seems like they're doing gangbusters. As long as everyone sticks to their role,
Right.
you don't have offensive linemen trying to run in touchdowns. And you don't have
Right.
wide receivers trying to pull block. Stick to your role.
Know
And
your role, jabroni.
know your role. I wasn't even trying for that, but there we go. And that makes for a great transition here. We're talking about football. There is some college football we need to dive into. Take a step away
Yes.
from
What
the
a week.
ring for just a second. The regular season in college football has completed at the time of recording, and by all likelihood, by the time of release of this particular episode, there still won't have the top four in the CFP out. It'll be out tonight. We anticipate that Georgia will stay number one, as they
Go
should.
dogs.
Michigan will go up to number two, which even I will now agree they should be number two. TCU should
Without question.
move up to three without question, and probably USC goes into the four spot. And
Definitely.
I am of the opinion, and I think most people will agree with 2/3 of this, that Georgia, Michigan, and TCU, all three have done enough that if they were all to lose their conference championship game, they would still deserve to make the playoff. I think most people will agree with Georgia. Most people would agree with Michigan. Sadly, not everyone's going to agree about TCU. What do you think about all that? What do you think if all three of them lose, they should all get in?
Yes. With TCU blowing out Iowa State this week, I think they are number three, no matter what. I think Michigan is number two, no matter what, and Georgia's number one, no matter what. To me, there's one spot left, and that is the fourth spot, and that is only if USC loses in the championship game. If they lose their Pac 10, was it 10, 12,
12
whatever
these
they are
days.
now?
It might go back to 10, but 12 these
Yeah,
days.
but I think there's only 10 teams, right? Anyway, if they lose their conference championship game, I think it's going to open the door for Ohio State to creep back in. Clemson effectively eliminated themselves. LSU, any chance they would have had, they had to be A&M, and they couldn't do that somehow. I don't. That blew my mind, that
Oh, she's not
game.
that good. That's why.
Well, A&M is really bad.
Yeah, that's true too.
And but so they blew their chance. So they've already got 3 losses. So even if they somehow do beat Georgia in the SEC title game, which I was kind of thinking they might have a shot because Georgia had already played their way in, and why risk getting anyone hurt per se? Yeah, I know you get a few weeks off here, but still they had nothing to gain per se by winning it. Uh, Michigan beating Ohio State and doing it in such a dominant fashion, to me, they're in no matter what. I think I don't think was it Purdue is going to have much of a shot to beat them anyway. But even if a miracle were to happen and Michigan lost, I still think they're in at worst three, because TCU in that scenario would move up to two. But so I think there could be 3 spots for sure locked down, one spot potentially open, but that's only if USC loses. If USC holds on, then we've got a CFP with no Ohio State, no Alabama, and I am thrilled.
No Clemson either, and that's
No
yeah, that's
Clemson too. Yes,
it's nice
thankfully
to
they
see it get
lost.
mixed up. Yeah.
Old Beamer got him. Beamer, those stupid glasses he wears, and
Yeah.
he's just swagged out. What an idiot.
He's got the street cred with his dad,
Gosh, right? My
But
God.
yeah, I'm of the opinion, and this is maybe just still the pessimist in me that's gone through so much when it comes to TCU and their postseasons. I think if TCU were to lose and USC were to win, then Ohio State would pip TCU, and they shouldn't, but I think that's what would happen. So I went on ESPN's playoff predictor. I don't know why. I think that's silly to predict what people are going to do when it comes to stats and whatnot. But I went ahead and put in a worst case scenario. I had Clemson win its conference. I had Purdue beat Michigan. I had USC beat Utah. I had LSU beat Georgia, and I had Kansas State beat TCU. And it still popped out TCU making the playoffs. So that gave me a little bit of
Yeah,
satisfaction.
they're in, man.
Yeah, they
They're in.
should be in. I mean, that
Rest easy.
conference right there, in a conference where really any team can beat any team, TCU beat every team.
Right.
Um, there's something impressive to say about that. Is it the most top heavy conference? No. Is it
Sure.
maybe even the best conference top to bottom? No. But there is good teams to decent teams up and down. You don't get a week off in that conference. You don't get to like, okay, cool, we get to play Vanderbilt this week. Oh, cool, we get to play Rutgers this
Right.
week.
No,
That's not a thing.
I agree with you. Next to SEC, I think they're the second best. I mean, the
Yeah.
Big Ten's got some real turds in it. They've got a
Well,
few solid teams,
I'll tell you about the Big
but
Ten. The Big Ten turned out into a three-team carousel this year. That's all it was.
that's it.
Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State went
And they're
undefeated in that conference this year, except when they played each other.
right. And to have two of them, uh, maybe three of them on the same division is crazy. The way
Yeah.
they've got that conference aligned
Well, it's
makes no
geographic.
sense at all.
It's
Why they
geographic.
would, I guess, but man, you really loaded one side and made the other side just complete crap, you
Yeah.
know? But I think without question, Georgia's in, TCU's in, Michigan's in. The only, and I think it's pretty small chance, but is if USC loses that spot, could be up in the air. But I don't know if they would put Ohio State without them going to their conference championship, and having one loss over a team that went to the conference championship. That's where it could get hairy. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I
If
think
USC were to
our
lose,
team's safe.
yeah, if
Your
USC
team's
were to
safe.
lose, I think so. I hope so. If USC were to lose, Ohio State would be the only team with one loss.
Right.
Every other team would have zero or two. So, yeah,
That's
the
the only
top,
argument.
yeah. So to me, the top three is settled, whatever order. 4 or 5, maybe there's an issue. To me, there's a gap right now. USC is ahead
Big.
of Ohio State, but they
Oh
can
yeah.
lose that gap if they lose their game. And then to me, the gap from 5 to 6 is just monstrous.
Yeah, exactly. That's where
Yeah.
I was
So
thinking.
nobody else can sneak in.
Nobody.
If they sneak Alabama into this thing,
That's
ooh,
my if they put Alabama in, like some kind of crazy scenario happens and a bunch of teams lose. If Alabama somehow creeps back in with two losses, not going to the conference championship game, then I'm done with college football. It's rigged. That's what you would have to say at that point.
yeah.
Is it is 1,000% fixed
And their two
because
losses,
they would be putting them in with their name. And that's it.
yeah. And their
Yeah,
two
go
losses
ahead.
weren't against like it wasn't against Georgia, it wasn't against Ohio State. It was to
Tennessee. Yeah,
Tennessee and LSU, two teams that are
right,
basically out of it now,
right.
despite
And yes,
victories over the great and almighty Alabama. Yeah, Alabama, go to the Sugar Bowl, go play Oklahoma or whoever the hell you're gonna play. It won't be Oklahoma, obviously, but
right. No, not this year.
yeah, stay out of it this year. You didn't
Maybe
do it
they'll
this
probably
year.
play. They'll probably play like a Clemson or maybe a trying to run through the maybe a UCLA.
Who knows? They'll
It
play
might be something
somebody.
like that. I'm trying to think of number two teams in their conference.
You know,
But
Bryce Young and Will Anderson, none of those guys are going to play in that game anyway. They're all going to be
right,
opting out. So,
opting out, going pro, making their cheddar.
and that's good
But
for them.
what an insane week, though. There were so many scenarios still in play, and then teams choked, and good teams don't do that.
Yeah.
So, you got to take care of your business. I wanted to give a quick shout out. We had some clean old fashioned hate this week for Georgia fans. You know what that means?
Uh huh.
Uh, we let Georgia Tech hang around for a quarter. That's
I mean,
that
for
was
real, Georgia
enough.
Tech scored the first 7 points and the last 7 points of that game.
Yeah.
Georgia
Well, it was
scored the middle
funny.
37. So what are you going to do? That's a triple decker sandwich right there. Poor
Right.
Georgia Tech. They're nowhere near Georgia's level right now. But yeah, that's a rivalry game.
Not
Go out and play
anymore.
it. You never know.
That they had their decade in the 80s, and we've firmly taken command. And with Kirby, I don't think they're not gonna be in position to beat us at least for another decade or two.
Probably not.
So overall, I can't wait for this weekend for college football. We're gonna get all the conference championship games. You want to do real quick, since there's only a handful. Who you got? Let's just go conference by conference. We'll start with Georgia and SEC. Georgia's, I believe, 20 or no, 17 and a half point favorites against LSU. I think we're going to win by 20 probably.
I can see that.
Uh,
Yeah, they're gonna
but
win for sure.
especially because their LSU's quarterback which is their entire offense, has a sprained ankle, and they're
Okay.
saying they're not even sure if he's going to play. So if he doesn't play, then it could get real ugly, I think. And if he does play, well, our defense is so physical and tough, we might make quick work out of him anyway if he's not healthy. So I don't think Georgia's going to have a slip up. They'd have to beat themselves to lose
Not
this
happening.
game for sure with a lot of turnovers. Yeah. But is that the same for you, Georgia
Yeah, I
by a
said
million?
I'm really. I think after the craziness of this past weekend, when it comes to the big conference championship games, I think it's going to be more vanilla this week. I think your
Chalk.
favorites are going to win. Yeah, I
So you
can't.
got
I mean, I'm not just
USC
saying
out west.
Purdue has a little bit of a giant killer reputation.
They
Those
do.
games are mostly at home, mostly earlier in the season.
Right.
I don't see it. TCU, Kansas State. Kansas State's a good team. Kansas State. I think TCU has the
They're
hardest
solid.
opponent of all these teams. I think
I
TCU
would agree
wins.
with that.
Yeah,
I think
TCU
TCU is
wins.
going to win.
I think it'll be close. I think it'll be not too similar to the last game where Kansas State actually jumped out to a pretty big lead and Kansas and TCU came back. I think this one will be more close to the vest early on. TCU will extend in the third quarter. TCU is capable of so many big explosive plays, the type of plays we saw Michigan do last week. We see TCU do on a more regular basis. I don't see any problems there. The USC Utah is the interesting game. I think the NCAA wants USC to lose. I think they want to find a way to get Ohio State in there. Not
Well,
that
yeah,
USC is not a
for
brand name
ratings.
either. They are, but they're just not where Ohio State is at this time.
USC, if they win, they're going to have a massive advantage because the championship game is played out there, and I believe one of the first round games of the CFP played at the Rose Bowl. So if they were to get that, I mean, that'd be like having a home playoff game for them.
well,
And ratings wise, I'm sure the committee would want USC because California so obviously huge.
yeah.
Ratings would be probably better,
Now,
but
if USC
they
gets in
they
as a
love
four seed,
Bama.
if they get in as a four seed, and we assume Georgia's the one seed, they would play each other.
I
Georgia
don't
would
want
get
that.
no. Georgia would get priority as far as where the
Okay,
game's played.
so that game would be in Atlanta
Yeah,
then,
or it would
and
be
then the other game would be in Pasadena.
most
Okay,
likely.
I'm
As
with you
the
now.
one seed, you do get some benefit to that. Other than playing the so-called weakest opponent in the field, you do
Right.
have priority as far as the bowl goes. So they would not be forced to go all the way out to California to play that game. But these are
I
all ifs, whens, hows, what's, buts, and whens.
right.
Let's get on the field and
I
figure this
can't
out.
wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So let's backtrack a little, just put the back to AEW for a moment before we
Sure.
sign off for the evening. They did have their Fallout Dynamite program following Full Gear.
And insane rampage too at the end.
Yeah.
I was shocked by we can get into that too if you would like.
Yeah, we could. What I did like was the opening segment of Dynamite where we
Light the
didn't see
fuse.
MJF, and that's fine. He didn't
Sure.
have to be there. William Regal made for a perfect stand-in. And the whole
Which
showdown
he
between
really
Mox
is
and
filming a
Danielson.
movie.
I was like, yes, he is filming a movie. But even if he wasn't, it would still be
Yeah.
okay to keep him off the screen for a moment.
Sure.
But that whole dynamic there, where Moxley, you could tell, wanted to tear Regal's head off.
Can you
Didn't
blame
do
him?
it. He just told
Yeah.
him, "Look, I just want you to leave. I want you to never come back. Just go."
Did
We
anybody
all
else
know
get a
that's not going
Lion
to
King
happen.
vibe? I was like, that flashed me back to a little kid. Run away, Scar. Run away and never come
Yeah.
back.
Okay.
Like that's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
thought of
Yeah.
immediately. I'm
Okay.
like, is John Moxley quoting the Lion King right now? Like that's what that's where I immediately went. But
Yeah.
so I didn't care for the wordings or the way he was saying that per se, but I like the segment overall. I thought it got to the point like get away from me or I'm gonna kick your ass, old
Yeah.
man. Like you screwed me, you know, and I'm saving you as a favor to my partner here, Brian. But you ever come around me again, I'm gonna kill you,
Yeah. And I
type of
thought
thing.
the dynamic there was just great.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I mean, you talk about Sami Zayn high level acting. These guys knocked it out of the park
yep,
too here for sure.
absolutely. And we got a big return and on Dynamite. And this
We did.
episode of Dynamite almost played off like an old school post WrestleMania Raw. Lots of
Yeah, it was solid.
lots of newsworthy stuff. House of Black, didn't
They're
expect
back.
that. It came out of nowhere.
No, everybody thought Malachi was leaving and going back to WWE, and the group had fallen apart, so to speak. But this was cool. I'm glad to see them back. I mean, they give them the top heel faction that can, seemingly kick anybody's ass and be viable title contenders. So this was good for AEW.
Yeah, and there's a big air of legitimacy to those guys, absolutely. And I think Julia Hart lurking always makes for some intrigue as well. I think um, what is she 20 years old?
Yeah, she's very young,
Yeah, she's got so
very
much to
young.
grow, but she seems to be pretty strong in her character work right now, and that's pretty impressive. And she adds that, I won't say a Rhea Ripley element because she doesn't have the physicality, but as far as being a nuisance, I think Julia Hart can run up right there with her. A couple of big things to come
Absolutely.
out as well. Ricky Starks will end up winning the tournament. He will face MJF at Winter is Coming. Any chance he can win that match?
I no.
No, you can't just give the title to MJF and it's taken away. I think,
Right.
but I think it's good for Ricky to get that. He can lose that match and be fine. You just
I
hope they
like
put on
Ricky
a good
Starks a lot.
match.
Like I think he could yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think he could be a future big time star. I really believe that, but I don't think there's any any chance in the world right
Right.
now
And
he's going to beat MJF.
that's okay. Your first feud, or maybe this won't even be a full on feud, but your first match for the title, defending the title, can establish you. There's nothing wrong with that. Ricky
For sure.
Starks, he has potential to be a big star. I agree. He needs to be used a little bit more consistently, but once that happens, it'll be fine. That's kind of the Acclaimed have all this potential, and they start getting used a little bit more frequently. And an episode of Dynamite without them is kind of crazy. You can't even imagine it.
Right.
2-0 now in the Elite versus the Death Triangle. We all expect this to go the full 7. What I
Oh,
just
for
hope is
sure.
that the Elite win the next match, because if they don't, it's going to be pretty
Yeah.
predictable. Unless they're going for a four
Right.
game sweep. If there's always the chance that for some reason they want to do a 4-0 sweep. I mean, a 2 out of 3 falls match sometimes ends in 2 falls. Usually doesn't, but it sometimes does. I don't
Right.
remember a best of 7 ever doing anything other than going 7 games.
Right. That's it's for sure going 7. I I think they're setting up the old Boston Red Sox scenario. I'm like you. I kind of hope they don't. I'd much rather. I think it'd be much more unpredictable if they would have had the elite win this match, but at bare minimum, they definitely got to win this third match.
Yeah, 2-0's okay. 3
Uh,
nothing would be.
right. It'd be so predictable at that point. But I thought it was an interesting story play. The first match, the Death Triangle use the Bell Hammer, cheat, get a roll up victory. This match, the Elite And if you watch Being the Elite, which is a YouTube show the Young Bucks put out and pretty much single-handedly built AEW with, uh, right before they go out, they're standing back in what they call a gorilla position, and they were standing there going, "All right, this week, you guys want to cheat? We're gonna cheat. We're gonna cheat this week." Well, it was kind of funny because it plays on into the match, and then they tried to cheat, except Death Triangle countered their tactic to cheat by cheating again and rolling up, and getting the win, and now getting the 2-0 lead. But it's pretty funny seeing if you like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. This week's episode is called F the Elite. Uh, just the letter F dot 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 the
Mhm.
Elite, because that's what the Chicago crowd was rampant again, and we got some more a response to last week's FCM Punk chants. They're in Chicago. Now we're FD Elite. However, midway through that match, there was an outbreak of FCM Punk chants again, which I thought was huge because being in Chicago, he's like a god there. And for the crowd to seemingly be tired of his antics and seemingly turn on him, to me, I kind of felt like it brought AEW, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega back together, like with the crowd. And I hope this propels them because they created AEW. They were the reason I got back into wrestling in 2016, 2015 time, right around there. I kept hearing about this Kenny Omega guy and these Young Bucks and how they were changing everything. And then I watched them one match and was just completely blown away. I'd never seen anything like him before. So I hope this can give them some momentum, give them lift their spirits, kind of get them back to the top where they belong. Kenny Omega looks phenomenal. He's working his tail off in these matches. It's time for the Elite to get a win.
All excellent points as usual. Yes. Not. I think they may have announced when the next match is. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll be looking forward to it when it happens. In other news, in AEW, it would appear that in storyline anyway, Thunder Rosa has officially relinquished her claim to the AEW women's title, and it was done so retroactively. She has a lot more power than we thought. Obviously, this is an office decision. So that means that when Tony Storm won the interim championship, she is now looked back upon as a proper AEW women's title, goes into the lineage. And when Jamie Hayter won that title at Full Gear, the interim title, that is also now the proper AEW title. So Jamie Hayter is your official AEW women's champion.
Yeah, no more interim.
Yeah, and I
That
wish
that
I wish they could have won their matches that way. They could be
right,
announced as the new champion, but they had to be announced as
right.
interim champion. Can this please be the end of interim championships?
It should be
Please,
100%. You're not the
please.
UFC. Move on. Like if a guy gets hurt, everyone knows it's part of the deal. You know what I mean? Like or a girl gets hurt, which is what happened. Thunder Rosa, she did jack her back up. I read pretty good. So I hope she has a speedy recovery and everything. I hope
Sure.
I hope she comes back. But there's no need for when somebody gets hurt for them to just sit at home for 6 months but still be called a champion. You know, this isn't the UFC. This isn't MMA or whatever. Like you
It's
get
done there
hurt.
too.
You right. No, I hate that. That's where they got the idea. Um, but I feel like if you're the champion, you get hurt, you go on TV, you tell you have your 10 minute segment of or talking to the crowd, whatever. Hey guys, I'm sorry I got hurt. This is what's going on. I'll when I come back, I'm gonna win this title again. You kind of amp up everybody. Yeah, there's a way to do it,
Yeah.
and slapping an interim tag, because like you said, it's offensive to some of the fans, and I'm sure as a wrestler, if they come to you and hey, we trust you enough to put the belt on you, but it's gonna be called the interim. Like I don't know. It just kind of takes away from.
It's silly.
I think it's just
It's
yeah.
dumb.
It just sucks altogether.
Like I'm the
You can't
interim
get
Super Bowl champion. That
any
doesn't make any
clearer than
sense.
that.
You know?
No, not at
Yeah,
all.
I'm the
Like
interim
so,
Wimbledon champion. I'm the I'm
interim World Series champ.
yeah,
You know, like
I'm
come
the
on.
interim president. I mean, you either are or you aren't. Damn it. It could be
Right.
acting. Act to me, actually, the word acting is almost a better term. Let's say you're the CEO of a company and you have to undergo surgery. You're obviously not going to give up your CEO title, but there'll be an acting CEO in your place. But that's different than a
Right.
championship where they're won and they're lost. So you're either the champ or you're not. That's it. So hopefully that's the end of the interim label. I can only hope so. We would be remiss if we didn't
Well,
discuss the main event of the show: Tomohiro Ishii taking on Chris Jericho.
my God.
Nobody for a second thought Ishii was going to win that match. Jericho's doing his thing, beating all the ROH people. Looks like he's going to officially be heading into a one-on-one feud with Claudio. And but the match itself, I
Yeah.
mean, what else do you expect? Jericho and Ishii can beat the crap out of each other. It's
These
exactly what happened.
They did beat the crap out of each other. I've never seen somebody take so many chops. This this to me got hard to watch. I have a lot of respect for Chris Jericho. I'm a big fan of Chris Jericho. I've met him a few times, been to a couple Fozzy shows. Um, he's a very nice person when you meet him, and to know that he's in his 50s and taking this kind of a beating, I didn't enjoy it at all. To me, this was unnecessary. This to me gets I don't like. This is just my personal opinion preferences. I don't like the trash wrestling, and by trash wrestling, I mean the backyard shit or let's stand here and punch each other in the face
Violence for
48
violence'
times or
sake.
chop each other 164 times.
Yeah.
Right. And when that's they literally did nothing but chop each other for 5 minutes straight to the point where Jericho's chest was bleeding. I don't know if I've ever seen that before, but to me that's I don't like the GCW, the glass tube shatters
Yeah.
everywhere and blood everywhere. That to me isn't wrestling or storytelling. And this got close to that. Um, I every a little bit of the New Japan's the strong style's okay, but this to me got to be way out of hand. And AEW is trying to be a big network TV company, and their contract's only so long with TBS and TNT, and when you're putting just junk like this on TV, to me it doesn't make your company look good. You're risking a significant injury to your top star in the entire company, and there was no story behind it. Like these two guys have had a 10-year rivalry, death feud style rivalry, then okay, you can at least explain it. This was a cold match, come out of nowhere against a guy who 90% of Americans don't even know who he is, and Tomohiro Ishii, which he is a good
He's great.
Japanese wrestler.
Yeah.
He's very, very strong, like tough ass dude, but no one knows who he is in America because he was in ROH, but he never got he doesn't speak English to my knowledge, at least, and I've never heard him speak at all. I don't think. And an American crowd, not many know who he is unless you're a hardcore fan. Anyway, to do all this was completely unnecessary to me. Wasn't my cup of tea. I don't think Jericho at 51, 52 should be doing this stuff like that. Like he can still put on fantastic matches and tell great stories, but this wasn't one of them. They could have done, half the stuff and this half the chops, half the punches, and it still would have been too much. I was not a fan of this. I look forward to Claudio and Jericho because it's going to be a more traditional wrestling style match, and they'll put on a banger. But to me, this was trash, and AW. I hope they stay away from this stuff from the future.
Yeah, can't disagree with you too hard there. I don't ever we don't see when people get hurt. They get hurt, they can't wrestle, right? And we're here to watch them perform. And if they're getting hurt, we can't do that.
Well, and all I kept thinking was like the Jerry Lawler spot where Ziggler gave him 10 straight jumping elbows. Like I was like, it's they literally traded chops for 10 minutes straight. And it's like one of these chops
Yeah.
going to stop Jericho's heart. I mean, he's 50 something, and Ishii's not a spring chicken by
No,
any
he's
means.
not.
So it's just to me, it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah, we just when it comes around, there's a little bit. Obviously, it's a combat sport, quote unquote. There's athleticism going on. There's combat going on. There's physicality. All that's the same. It's the same thing when we watch a football game. But at the end of the day, no one getting injured is a good thing. It's a
Right.
great thing because again, it allows us to watch them perform. And violence for violence sake, no. That's the difference between a company like ECW and some of these deathmatch companies. When ECW was around, yeah, they were violent. It's obviously it went over the line more than once, but for the most part, it was rooted within a structure of story
And the
and
story, yes.
character and somewhat. Again, did they go over the top too far sometimes? Yes. I got two words for you, New Jack. But
Yeah.
um, at the end of the day, that's why I was never a big fan of New Jack. But at the end of the day, we want to be entertained. And some wrestling fans, sure, the sight of blood, gore, violence entertains them. That's cool. You're a niche audience. You're not a global type audience where you're on a big network that needs sponsors to survive and whatnot. This match isn't going to single handedly ruin AEW's chances for sponsorship or anything like that. But if it becomes a trend, it would
Right.
be a problem. I mean, we can see a match like Death Triangle and the Elite. And they don't need to do any of that. I
Right.
understand Ishii probably wants to get himself over a little bit. Maybe they wanted to get Ishii over a little bit. And that's his style. He is known as a brawler type, and he's very believable in that role. He's got a great look. He looks like a bulldog. He just looks like a
Yeah.
bulldog.
The
And
Stone Pitbull is a
yeah,
perfect moniker.
yeah, and all that. But and at the end of the day, he didn't win the match. He tapped out. I
Right.
don't know. This match had every reason to be great. Jericho's promo on Ishii being a young boy the week before was great.
I did like
Um,
that.
and I was kind of looking forward to it, and
Yeah.
it didn't fall flat, so to speak, but it wasn't. I didn't feel great about it afterwards.
Look,
I
you'd
didn't.
never see something like this on WWE TV, I feel like. I mean, never.
Yeah,
And
and that's
and
okay.
if AEW wants to get to their level, and I mean the ratings and the numbers are what they are. I'm a huge AEW fan. I back them more than WWE. But if AEW wants to get to the same type of level to where you're getting billion-dollar contracts and multi-$100 million TV deals, putting shit like this on TV to me isn't going to get you there.
No, it's
This
gonna.
type of gore fest, and then especially with all the unnecessary cussing on top of it and flipping the crowd off every 2 seconds. Yes, Steve Austin did that. That's one guy in the history of the WWE flipped the crowd off, and everyone was in
And
it.
they
It was
cheered when
a
he did
different
it.
time, right? It was a different time, a different culture. America was completely different. We didn't have even cell phones shit yet. So to me, it's just in today's time, you just can't do this kind of stuff. And I just thought it was a bad ending to a great show.
Yeah, and sponsorships rule the day now. Ratings aren't what they used to be.
No,
You just the overall TV viewership is either down or it's so spread out that your raw
it's so.
numbers, pun
I think it's
intended,
so spread out.
yeah, your raw numbers aren't going to be what
Right.
they used to be. Whereas at times WWE drew 8 million people to Monday Night Raw. I'm not saying that was their average, but they did it.
Right.
The Saturday night
Right.
main event, Hogan Andre drew over 30 million viewers. You're never going to see that again. Not just for wrestling, for anything. The only
Never.
thing that can attract that big an audience in the
NFL.
is the NFL now, and even that's not even on a
Yep.
weekly basis. We're talking about playoffs, big games, Super Bowls, and
Thanksgiving
such.
Day. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the
Very
NFL is a
small
freaking
niche.
megalodon compared to everybody else. So that's that's where that comes from. So sponsorship and stuff, I know a lot of people don't want to hear about that. They want to hear about the purity of the sport. They want to hear about the mat is sacred. Whatever cliche you want to throw in there, be my guest, throw it in there. If you're looking to be a financial success, which is why you're doing this, you can appeal to a hardcore section of the fan base and get the internet really riled up and get Dave Meltzer all hot and creamy as much as you want. That ain't going to pay the bills at the end of the day.
Right.
And
At the end of the day, there's a million fans each week that watch SmackDown more. Like 2 million people are watching SmackDown. That's about the top average rating per week is 2 million on SmackDown. About 1.6, 1.7 watch Raw, so a slight decline. But then you drop down to AEW. AEW's Dynamite is pulling about 900,000 to 1 million people per
that's
on average
fine.
per week, which is it's fine, but that tells you there's 1 million people that watch wrestling that won't watch AW, and I think a lot of it is because of the language and these matches like this with Ishii and Jericho. I really do. And I mean that's a huge AW fan. I've been to 9 or 10 AW shows. Every time they're in the area, I go to Dynamite or Rampage or pay-per-view in Chicago, Starcast, all that. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why the AW hasn't caught WWE yet, or they're 1 million fans behind in ratings. It consistently each week.
And WWE
People
gets
don't like
ratted
this
on.
type of shit.
Yeah, WWE
Right.
gets ratted on for being more family friendly. Let me ask you a question. How old were you when you first started watching wrestling?
Six,
6 or 7. Me too. Most
yeah,
people would average it. So yeah, you got to bring the kids in, and we're not saying make it like little G-rated. Everybody has their own teddy bear type situation. You need to appeal to adults
if you're
too.
if you're gonna do
But
the blood and gore, that's got to be pay-per-view shit.
yeah,
You know what I
and
mean? Not live, not TV.
if I were 6 years old today, my parents would not let me watch AEW. They wouldn't,
No, oh,
and
I wouldn't
they
get
wouldn't
to
let me
either.
watch it if I was 12 years old. I don't think. Now I came up on WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling in Dallas. So that's
Sure.
Dallas. That's
Von
you're
Erich
not. Yeah, they're
country.
not going to do anything other than "Let's Go America" type programming, um, wholesome type stuff. Obviously heels are going to be heels. There's blood sometimes, and
And they're all
so
gonna
on
be
and
from
so forth.
Russia or
Yeah,
Iran
and we want to. I want
or
to go ahead and state for a fact we don't think that Jericho Ishii is going to bring down the company. We're using this as an opportunity to talk
no.
about it as
Yeah.
a larger picture
Yes.
situation.
Much bigger picture thing here.
So I can just imagine, Justin Roberts gets up on the microphone and with such vigor announces Pack to the ring. And I imagine a little 6-year-old turning to his dad saying, "Daddy, what's a bastard?"
Right.
He's saying it with so
Even
much
the
happiness.
acclaim, like the acclaim are on fire right now, but their moniker is Scissor Me Daddy Ass. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna break that down,
I know.
but if you're an adult, you know what that
We
means.
do, but
It
that's
is
subtle. At least it's subtle.
hilarious.
At least it's
That's
subtle.
that's more way more subtle, but still like stuff like that. And then you got the GD flying from MJF all the time.
All the time. I gotta even stop that.
He's throwing GD out and saying things like Jew boy. To me, that's does not you can't have that on TV, man. Even if you are Jewish, saying that isn't cool, like I just it blows my mind almost what they're allowing on TNT. And I mean, I know when we were growing up, the Attitude Era pushed the boundaries, but it was a different world. And today, people may not understand that, but back in the '90s and 2000, it was a completely different world than what we live in today. And it was more acceptable and more common talk, even rightly or wrongly. Um, and in today's world, though, like it's just too much, and they're hurting themselves so much here. And the wrestling's so good, but it's just everything else isn't.
Yeah.
And I think they can do better. I think they could. I predicted when they started that they would already be ahead of WWE by now. ratings wise, because I thought they had that kind of talent and that kind of ability and storytelling, but they've really resulted to a lot of the cheap heat stuff. And
Their appeal to a wider audience is lacking.
yes,
And
and
that's
I
fine
think
if that's
it's
what they
stuff
want to
like
be.
this.
If that's what they want to be, that's one thing. But
Right,
you handed your company over. Remember, this company was not founded by Tony Khan. It was founded by the wrestlers, but they
right,
handed it over to the billionaire. If you're going to
pretty
hand your
much.
company over to a billionaire, that means you're trying to make something of it. You're not just trying to please a reasonable segment of the audience. You want to become mainstream, which I think they've become wrestling mainstream for sure. But if you ask people off the streets to name you wrestlers, they're not naming Kenny Omega. They're naming, John Cena. They're naming,
Brock
maybe even naming
Lesnar,
Roman Reigns.
Roman
Yeah,
Reigns,
Ronda
yeah,
Rousey, things like that. They're all WWE people.
right.
Um, if you want to be a niche company, be a niche company. I wouldn't be pursuing these. I don't want to call them wars with WWE, but these skirmishes maybe. Just do your own thing. Keep your dudes, keep your gals that you want that are gonna get Dave Meltzer happy, so you can win all his awards at the end of every year and get his 28-star ratings or whatever he's up to these days. Um,
Right.
then do that. But if you're gonna get on cable, if you're gonna be
A
on Turner
successful
networks,
company.
then there are some things you need to look at. And they have the ability to do it. They have the talent base to do it.
Absolutely. That's what drives me
You know,
nuts. They have so many talented people and just
and
there's,
we're wrestling
not
fans.
using them.
Yeah, I as more good wrestling is on my TV, the happier I am.
Heck yeah.
So if you gotta give me two good companies that are gonna make each other better, then I'm all for it. So that turned into a pretty long rant, but I think it was a
Yeah, I
necessary one on our
apologize for
parts, on both
that.
of our parts. We want everyone to succeed because that just gives us better quality. That's the other
Right.
thing about the Attitude Era is that both companies, for a while before WCW fell off, were
Right.
fire.
Oh yeah. I mean they were
They
both
were fire.
drawing 4 million
Yeah,
crowds each, like
but
four
then
million
the
viewers each.
quality. I mean, like we say it was raunchy and whatnot, but Austin, who of course is the face of the Attitude Era, was more over than anyone's ever been in
Well, there was this
wrestling.
such mainstream crossover.
Yeah,
Everybody in America knew who The Rock and Steve Austin
yes,
were.
they did.
One out of 100 people probably know who Kenny Omega is, or I don't know, uh, the Young Bucks.
Right.
And they could get up to that level. I really believe that, but they need better stories, and they just need to clean up stuff. AEW as a company need to clean up a lot of the stuff. But one last thing on AEW, I will usually dread watching Rampage, to be perfectly honest. On Fridays, they've really been lacking. This week, though, at least the last match really caught my attention. It sucked me in, and that was when Rush and I forget what they're calling themselves now, but the
Mm-hmm.
Butcher, is it the Butcher and Blade?
Uh-huh.
Uh, Taking on the Dark Order. When it started, I was like, "What's going on here? You've got a 2-on-3 match," and then the announcers kind of started explaining where was 10, where was 10. Well, then midway through the match, here comes 10, which is another member of the Dark Order, uh, the only big menacing potential guy that looks like he has any kind of potential from that group, to be perfectly honest at all, comes running down, save the day, except he did not save the day. He turned on the Dark Order. The only reason I wanted to bring this up is the Dark Order had been there from AEW's inception, and obviously with when John Huber, Mr. Brody Lee,
Uh-huh.
untimely passing out of nowhere, I think a lot of the plans got changed with the Dark Order because they went from heels to kind of an instant baby face, and so I think it's all kind of getting scrapped. Basically, is what I'm getting to. 10 turned on everybody, destroyed the Dark Order. Mr. Brody Lee's son was there, who he had 10 had kind of he always carried him to the ring on his shoulder. kind of stepped up as like a father-like figure from a distance, I believe, to him. Took his mask off, throws it in front of the kid's face, uh, turns on him. I was just curious your thoughts on that. I thought it was pretty powerful. I thought it was really good TV actually. uh,
Yeah, I mean,
the
a
best
good
thing
heel turn is
Rampage,
always a good heel
right?
turn is always welcome. A good face turn is always welcome. The heel turn is easier to pull off
Sure.
quickly. I think
I thought he did a
face
great
turns can
job
be.
here though.
Yeah, I think face turns generally, I think work better when they're built up to heel turns. If they're done instantaneously, can work. Um, I don't know if they're gonna follow through with it. It happened on
That's my
Rampage.
only
It happened on
concern.
Rampage. They may forget about it next week. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but
No, you're right.
yeah.
That's like my only concern. They did so good with this segment. Are they gonna keep it going or are they gonna jack it up? I hope they keep it going because the imagery of this scenario with the little kid crying on his hands and knees, his best friend just turned on his father's group and everything. I thought it was pretty riveting, but
Yeah.
I hope they follow through with it. It's by far the best thing that's been on Rampage in
A long time.
months.
Yeah.
But that does it for me. That was all I had for
No,
AW
that's
this
I'm
week.
glad you brought that up. Absolutely. That was definitely worth talking about. All right, guys. That was a pretty festive show today. We went a little while, but there was quite a bit to talk about. We didn't even talk about the NFL again. And that's okay. The NFL still got time.
The Ravens are still blowing
Yes,
leads. The
they are.
Vikings are winning. The Niners are looking good.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same this
Yep.
week as
NFL,
last week.
we'll get to that when it gets down a little bit more to the nitty-gritty. But in the meantime, we will be expected to be back next week. We will not
Yeah,
have any pay-per-view stuff to worry about. So we'll be able to focus the show a little bit more in the directions we want to. I mean, we can obviously do whatever we want. It's our show, but when it comes to pay per views, we definitely want to make sure we cover those.
yeah,
But we want to thank you for hanging around with us on this wonderful Tuesday. And whenever you happen to be listening to this, again, Spotify, YouTube, I'm going to pass it over to Steven here in a second to talk about all the social media stuff we can do. But before I go, I wanted to thank you again. Very much appreciate all of your patronage, all of the time and effort you put into listening to us. We have fun. We would do this if no one was listening, and if you happen to be listening, we're thrilled about it. Hopefully, you take something from it. If you don't like something we said, feel free to argue with us, man. We like a
yeah,
good verbal scrap. So from
yeah,
me, thank you everybody. I'm gonna pass it to Steven to close us out for the day.
yeah. We definitely appreciate everybody who gives us a like, a follow, a subscribe on YouTube. You can catch us on Twitter at Catching Flies W1, spelled just like it's sound. Catching Flies W1. I'm on there all the time. I'm very active, respond to anything you guys want to talk about. If you have any ideas for the show, send them in there. Um, as soon as the show drops, I'll be tweeting it out, putting it out on Facebook. Just give us a like and follow. We greatly appreciate it and look forward to talking with you next week.